Hey man, what's going on?
What's
Tom?
up, man? How you
Oh
been?
man, dude, honestly, just a crazy day, but all in good, all good in good ways. But like, I found out at 8 o'clock this morning, I had to go to a sprinkler supply store to buy
Oh wow.
like a
I did
mile
not
of.
know there was a sprinkler supply store.
You and me makes three on that one. I'll tell you
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
Yeah, I had no fucking idea. I'm like, what? What do you mean? So, I mean, I knew
Don't
there had to be one. I mean, there's a store for everything, right? I mean,
but
it's
I mean you would think, hey, just go to Lowe's.
Yeah, so I did that. I actually went there first because it's closer to my house, and
Yeah.
that was the wrong idea. So
You
that
asked
did
some
not
person
work
in
out.
a blue apron that was like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
That is almost word for word what they said. I go to them. I was like, "Yeah, so I need this sprinkler thing." They're like, "Fire sprinklers." I'm like, "No, but I could see the, like at this point, I'm like completely like, oh, okay, it's fair. Like
Yeah, that makes that's a fair
yeah,
assumption.
that's a fair assumption." And then it just went downhill from there. Then I was like, pipe to run water line. They're like, pipe, pipe. And I'm like, oh, no.
It goes in the ground.
Yeah.
I went once to get a replacement faucet for outside, right? And I'm like, look, I just need the piece that goes in this way. You can unscrew it. And she
Right.
goes, oh, those are really old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the house is from the late 80s.
Yeah.
It's not,
Not like we're not talking about like
I'm
a
not asking-
57 Rancher.
I'm
here.
not pulling it out of the wall and there's like asbestos behind it. It's literally,
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh, you're going to have to go to a plumbing store.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that is when I walked in, I was like, yeah, I just came from Lowe's, and she literally pulled up one and she's like, say no more, I got you.
Oh, we get that all the time.
Oh yeah, she was amazing. Yeah,
That's good.
I loved it. There was nothing more entertaining, like more useful, I think, than talking to somebody who really knows their shit.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to this woman who is a very heavy set, very butchy,
Yeah.
lady dressed.
She's been doing it for years.
In a hard hat with a yellow vest and just fucking like could manhandle me back. Like
my question is, what's happening at the sprinkler store?
Yeah.
That she needs that level of OSHA safety equipment.
So it's funny, their main store in the front's not bad, but they got this whole warehouse behind where you can get like everything from like paving stones to
okay. So it's like a whole like supplier.
It's a whole thing. Yeah. So but it was really cool. I mean, they got all kinds of, the gadget guy and me went crazy. I'm like, this thing is a stand behind aerator that's on, like, it's one of those little buggies.
What does this do? What does this do?
I'm like,
what does this do?
What do I do with this thing? This is great. I want to do more of this. Yeah. So
I always like places like that because you can go in and be like, look, I need a thing. It's kind of like an L shape, but not.
Yeah. Oh, totally. 100%.
It connects these two things. They're like, oh, it's called this. And here they are. What size do you need? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's about this big. I don't know.
All right. We're going to give you this and this one. Bring one back.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's the first question I asked her. I said, hey, listen, if you haven't been able to tell already, this is not my domicile. So on the very likely chance I don't use all of these parts, I will never use them again. So even if it's not refundable, which I hope it would, I at least want to bring them back here because I will never fucking use them.
You'll never use them, yeah.
Like ever. My kids will be cleaning it out when I'm dead going, what the fuck are these things? Like, what do these do?
Look, man, I'm cleaning out where we keep our tools and I'm finding stuff like, hey, remember when you did that one project 20 years ago?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's like, why we don't even live there anymore?
Nope. Yeah, totally. So speaking of cleaning stuff out, actually.
Yeah, man.
I was, my daughter actually was cleaning out something and found a pile of my sketchbooks. And I think one of my like quirks is that I'm like a never ever gonna finish a sketchbook, but have a million sketchbooks kind of guy.
I get that.
You know what I mean? Like I have, and I, for reasons I've yet to understand, I never throw them away. Like it's like, I would throw away literally anything else in my house before I threw away those. Like I don't know why. It's a weird personality.
One of those days you might come back to it.
Correct. And so my daughter opens up the sketchbook and she goes through it. She, I'm upstairs. I'm nowhere near. I'm making dinner. She's in the basement. She comes upstairs. She goes, do you remember I forget the name, so we'll just say a Courtney from college. And I was like, no, why? She's like, well, she wrote Wendy. Wendy, do you remember Wendy from college? I said, no.
Lasting impression on you.
Yeah, well, yeah. So she goes, well, she has a whole page in your sketchbook. And I'm like, what do you mean a whole page? Like, what does that mean? So I go down to the basement, I look in the sketchbook, and sure enough, it says Wendy's page, right? Like right there. Like I have literally no idea who Wendy was, right? Like none.
That's great.
But this was from 1998, right? Like, so we're flipping through the sketchbook, and a bunch of stuff that I actually remember doing. It looks like it was a primary sketchbook of mine, because at least 4 or 5 pages in there were projects that I actually did, that I actually still have in portfolios that are,
oh, wow, cool,
that were part there. So I'm like, oh, that was the sketch for that project. That's funny. I did that. And I did that. And so that was kind of fun. Then we get to a page that literally just dropped me in my tracks. It was a book outline for how to make better the deleterious effects of working at a computer for as long as we were doing in college. Now, there's a whole bunch to unpack here, because a whole bunch, not the least of which being, this was 1998. And like, we hadn't even,
Google wasn't Google. Amazon wasn't Amazon.
No, Google didn't even exist. Like Amazon
was in infancy. Yeah.
Amazon was in its infancy. Like, Ask Jeeves was the fucking search engine.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Actually, by 98, logo. Google was probably on the scene, but they were really small, and everybody was using Ask Jeeves. That was really the only search engine that anyone used at the time. Right.
Alt Vista too? Was
Alta Vista was before
Alta Vista?
Yeah. But Alta Vista was what was in like the Netscape Navigator browsers.
Yeah,
like the old,
that's
right. You know what I mean? Like it's like the old
Netscape. Right? Jesus.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I remember. Yeah.
Those are relics.
Relics for sure. But like, so I'm like, this is a time where no one, like, this was the equivalent in other people terms would be like the 1950s for cigarettes. Like everybody was just doing it. And like some people were even calling it healthy. Like it was like, we had no idea that cigarettes are essentially a death sentence for almost everybody who smokes. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was 1998 for the computer industry, like the graphic designers, right? Like the late 90s was the 50s of tobacco. Like everybody's like, you could work 32 hours a day. Who gives a fuck? Like it's like, look,
you're just sitting.
Yeah. And sitting. Look, if you have 7 monitors, it's brighter. And I'm like, you can just not to, and nobody was really talking about that stuff. And I'm sitting here writing a fucking book outline on it, which of course I never did. So several things popped into my head. I'm like, now I'm spiraling at this point. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I have failed since 1998 to write this fucking book. Cause that book, while not exactly what I'm doing now, is eerily similar to what I'm working on still right now.
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of like close enough where it should be alarming. And then I talked to you and like you kind of put it in perspective. You're like, it'll kind of happen when it happens, right? Like,
yeah.
And then you got me thinking, I'm like, what is it about that makes us do that? Right? Like, what is it about me that my first reaction was not, wow, this was a really good idea. No, it was like, fuck, I'm a 30-year loser.
I'm a horrible piece of shit that never gets anything done.
Yeah.
I think some of it, is really like we just, because we did this interview. We were networking with this mental health care practice, right? And I'm sitting in with this, this woman who's telling us about her practice, and she's asking us questions. And she, my office manager, Hank, is sitting there with me. And this woman asks, do you guys see a lot of fertility patients? Because we get a lot of couples that are coming in for the stress of the whole IVF. And, a lot of them are like, maybe they're LGBTQA, and this is a whole different arena. Like the stuff they have to go through is even more intense.
Sure.
And, I go, look, we don't advertise that we're a fertility clinic or anything like that. But, I do see a steady amount of people trying to get pregnant. And Hank leans over and she goes, he's being modest. I think he treated 15 like in the last 3 days.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. And really, like, it's harder for us to see our accomplishments, and
Sure.
when we see the one thing that we didn't get done, it's like, God, it crushes you a little, right? I'm wondering if that's part of those driven genes. I'm wondering if that's part of the, the
little
like
Dougie action.
Yeah, let's mention Doug Brackman, right?
Yeah.
But within that, it's certainly something that, like, oh fuck, I can't get this done. I mean, like, even the cupping book, man, I had that thing fucking written in COVID. Yeah,
which was not yesterday at this point.
And it's not, and I mean, when I say COVID, I mean the hey, we're all gonna die, don't leave your house part.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here with the company going, like, are you going to launch in January? Oh man, I was hoping to be out in October. Originally I said September, and then they're like, look, if you want to do this the right way, this is what we recommend.
Sure.
So it's and now I'm going, like, why aren't you guys done with that? Why aren't you guys done with that? Why aren't you guys done with that? Now it's like, now I feel like I'm in the driver's seat after so long. I was going, like,
yeah, you can finally say, like, I did it.
It's 80% done. I'm good for a while,
Yeah. And yeah, no, I can see that. And you're not wrong. I mean, I guess that's a good point and something to remember, right? Like,
yeah,
seeing all the accomplishments, if I were to line them up against the projects that I didn't do.
Yeah.
Or get done, I should say, you'd probably notice that I probably generate a lot of ideas for every one that gets accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, look at Michelangelo. He never built that fucking helicopter.
Right.
Right. Like, there's a whole bunch of shit that never got made. It was all in a sketchbook.
Yeah, it was all in a sketchbook. Right. And like, that's kind of where what I'm saying is, like, you can't say, like, oh, look, I sat down and sketched 40 ideas trying to find the one I want to produce, and then I produced it. But I never went back to those other 39 and said, is there anything else to chew on in here? I just moved to the next thing and then drew 40 other new things about sketches for the next thing, right? Like, you don't really loop back on these all that much, right? So
no. And that's the thing, man. I could show you, what is it? What's the one with Evernote?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, remember when the world tried to convince you that you needed Evernote? I loved Evernote. I still use it a little bit.
I still have it sitting on my phone. I still go back and go, oh, that was a good idea.
Maybe
one day. Yeah, and honestly, I think I talked to you about ear seeds, these little press seeds that sit on the ears, and this guy kind of rebranded it. He built this huge company out of it, and he took something that's been around for thousands of years. Well, guess what? A few months before that project launched, I got it dated in my notebook going, God damn it, he beat me.
That's funny.
And
no, that's crazy. So how many of those ideas have you had, do you think? I've had a couple.
So I had different shaped cups.
Right.
That, were a heart shape, and I prototyped that, and somebody beat me to market. And it was like, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really funny. You know what our big one was? Like, my biggest one was we had when iPhone 3, I think it was, came out, you could communicate through the charging port. And we basically hired a Bluetooth engineer, and we had a scale, a thermometer, and a blood pressure cuff from South Korea with a Bluetooth chip in it. Right, through a distributor and everything. We had, like, the whole thing set up.
It was ready to go.
We needed $5 million to tool up to build it.
Yeah.
And to have the Bluetooth engineer on and get the product actually made. And we went and pitched it to a bunch of VC firms and people and everything. We just couldn't raise the money, right? Everyone thought we were crazy. like all the VCs we talked to, they're like, this is like an uphill battle. We agree that that's where it's going to go, but it's going to take forever to get there. And we don't feel like waiting around. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
A year later, I walk into the Apple store and there's a fucking line of iPhone connected scales
Devices.
there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, and I'm like, but it's okay. That was only $1 billion marketplace. Like,
well, what does Gretzky say? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, or something like that.
Yeah. No, I guess.
Is that Gretzky or is that Jordan?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Some great.
It's a sports
guy.
It's a sports comment.
Oh man, as long as we're doing tangents here, we come out of the gym on Sunday. It's a recovery class. I still have chalk all over my tank top. I've got a workout shirt on, and we're just checking out. We just need to get one thing. And this woman in a Ravens Ravens jersey, Ravens hat, like full Ravens shit, comes over and she goes, "Hey, excuse me, sir. Do you know who so and so is playing today?" I'm like, I know what I look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even know those teams still existed.
Yeah.
It's like wrong guy.
Wrong guy. Yeah. And she's like, well, he looked fit.
He looked like he would be
athletic guy.
Physical stuff.
That's funny. I never get mistaken for that. I can tell you, nobody looks at me and is like, that guy knows a lot, volumes about sports. Nope. not one time.
It was funny because this woman I was talking to, this counselor, and I said, look, I know what I look like, but we really are trying to be as pro LGBTQA. I know I'm sitting here with and I still had the long beard and I'm bald head and I got tattoos. And she goes, all your visible tattoos are covered in flowers. I thought you'd be okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't read the way I think I do.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah. She's like, you probably have a kitten at home, so shut your
I got four. I got four.
Right.
You're lucky one isn't scratching at the door right now.
Oh my God. Why on earth would you have 4 cats?
I don't know. My mom asked me the same thing.
That's a lot
She's
of cats.
Like, what are you doing to yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not. I'm apparently I never want to be able to go anywhere or do anything.
No, that
and
sounds
not have clothes without hair on it.
That's hilarious. Yeah. All right. So back. I want to ask you some. I want to keep asking you about this, man.
Yeah, man.
So you and I could look at it in a regard through the lens of projects like this book idea. I'm not going to lie to you. This book outline is obviously very old and would need a lot of work to resurrect it, but it's actually a really solid book outline.
But from reading it, yeah, I think it's absolutely solid. And I think the key points, right? The little sub notes might have to be adapted and changed based on what we know now.
No,
but the core of it is eyes, posture, corrective exercises. I mean, how much else do you need? You could write that book now because we're spending. Now it's not just for graphics designers.
No,
it's for
now
gamers.
It's for every Zoom person.
Every virtual worker, every kid that goes to school and has a laptop in their pocket.
Sure.
Well, not in their pocket, but
Yeah, but you get it. And that's the thing is it's funny how when you say, and one of the things that struck me about what you said is it'll happen when it's ready to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that sheet of paper and I'm like, you know what? The reality is there's almost never been a more perfect time to do that kind of work than right now.
You're hitting everyone because there's a screen. Back then, I mean, we didn't have 98. You had a cell phone?
I did. Yeah. I was one of the only people
but it was
it
was
it's a Sprint PCS.
You weren't, it wasn't even a sidekick.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? You weren't watching shit on it. It wasn't an iPhone.
And I had Sprint PCS because it was the college friendly budget phone.
Yeah, the cheap one. Was that the one that chirped? You could chirp the other people?
No, that was Nextel. Yeah, which I also had one of those. Right? Yeah, I did. That thing was, I loved that. The push to talk, that was a lot of fun. Although it was very disruptive. I was in a meeting one time and one of my buddies was like, hey, Hampton, fuckhead, get on over here. And I'm like, and I'm in the middle of a meeting and I forgot. Yeah.
So, honestly, when I went to a BlackBerry, I was like, oh shit, this is the future.
Oh yeah. I went to a Trio. I didn't have a BlackBerry. I went to the Trio.
Oh, look at you.
Well, I didn't want to switch to Black. I had Sprint and I can get a Trio through Sprint. I couldn't get a BlackBerry through Sprint.
Yeah. I get that.
You know what I mean? So I was like, well, I'm not changing back then you couldn't change your phone number. You couldn't,
Yeah, you were pretty much married to that company.
It is funny. And my phone number now is actually that same phone number from back then.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've had that phone number since I think 97. So it's like, or
See,
98.
I don't even remember my New York cell phone number.
Oh, that's funny. But so, yeah, so like I guess the thing that I'm kind of taking away from all this, or the thing that's gotten me thinking about a bunch of new stuff, is like, how many times this touches a bunch of things, so I just want to word it right. So how many times do we get into a vortex where we're like in 1998, for example, this book would have been absurdly esoteric,
niche,
and very, very niche, right? Like it would only apply to a certain group of one profession, essentially, which admittingly was a huge portion of the workforce because everybody was jumping into this web design thing at that time, right? So like there was a huge influx of people doing this for a living. So it did affect a decent chunk of people, but it wasn't like the world, right? And but like nobody, like I told you, it was like the 50s for tobacco. Like nobody gave a shit. Like the only reason you wanted an Aeron chair with the ergonomics and all that was because it cost $1,500 and you wanted to tell all the tech CEOs wanted to fucking show how big their digital phallus was. And so they bought a whole floor full of Aeron chairs, and that was a ridiculous waste of money. But with hindsight, like, you know, they're fucking nice chairs. And now every chair is kind of modeled after that sort of like hyper adjustable thing. But no one even knew what those levers did. Like no one thought like, okay, how do I properly align myself in a chair to maximize ergonomic efficiency, right? Like nobody thought about that. So like you could write a fucking encyclopedia on it back then and nobody would have given a shit.
You would just been a weird nerd with a weird obsession.
Yeah. So like how many ideas do you and I have in the world at large have right now that are kind of in that camp where you're like, this is kind of a dumb idea because blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, a year, 5 years, 10 years, or in this case, 20, you know, all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is like super, I needed to have this thought then so that I could be in the right spot to deliver that message now.
It's, you know, my mentor said, you know, this is funny, because I remember having a conversation with him talking about like, I want to do this and I want to do that. I want to do this and I want to do that. And I don't know, like I can't physically do all of those things in a period of time. And, you know, he said, you can do everything. You can't do it all at once.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you know, that's like a very like, you can't think and hit at the same, like a Yogi Berra kind of statement. Totally. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, he's absolutely right. You know, I can't, there's only so many resources. There's only so much mental faculty. There's only so many, like, right. Like if we could just fuck around and do this once a week for an hour and a half, and we had would the show be better? Would we put more eggs in this basket? Would we be like, hey, Matt, I just did this thing. It's real cool. Let's talk about it. You know, but we both have other careers. We have families. We have, you know, things we have to attend to. So I feel like it's almost like you've been hovering in this like health field without being in health, right?
Right.
But like it's always been there, you know, it's always been in the background. It's like, look, how can we do this?
Sure. Yeah.
You don't even.
Just, and it goes to how basic of a message everything is. And that kind of brought me full circle to what we do talk about here. A lot of the stuff is a little goofy, but like all of it is kind of centered around the same orbit, right? Like it's making you not just go farther, but get there more healthily at the same time.
We gotta post a photo of that script somewhere. We got that whole page.
Sure,
that's gotta be up.
No, I will definitely post. Yeah, but it's like, and it got me, you know, like to your point, this thing that we do here wasn't even really supposed to happen. And it only happened because we did carve out that time and say, look, we are going to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, the one thing, I don't know if you've watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentaries.
I don't know, you know, like I've heard some things, not bad about him, but I heard like, you know, he was going to like Muscle Beach and like these little dudes were out lifting him and stuff. And they're like, he's just big. He's not
Yeah.
strong. And it was like, people liked him for some reason. It's like, I'm not fucking with him.
But he had the entire package, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he didn't need to be the strongest. He needed to be the best looking, and that's, you know what I mean? Like the definition.
I don't know. I would, I maybe.
Well, no, he was weirdly obsessed with like the definition of each muscle group,
of each
right?
muscle.
Like,
and
right,
honestly, that is a very bodybuilding thing, right? That's not strongman. That is not a power lifter. That is this. I do this one thing, because if you look at power lifters, they're like, I don't give a shit if I got a beer belly.
Right. And so when he
abs don't lift things,
he got what was it? I think it was. Don't quote me on this, because I can't. There was a lot of information, and there's like 2 documentaries that are different, but they're both about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
About him.
Yeah. So but like he came in second in Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia, I think, right? Whatever, like the one at the top of all of it. Yeah. And he was so pissed that he basically went home, and for the next 364 days just said, I know how to win this, and I just have to, this has to happen with this muscle, this has to happen with this muscle. And he put together an bulletproof plan that was unshakable. Yeah. And he just outworked everybody, like plain and simple. Like if I worked for an hour, he worked for 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just outright, just running circles.
Insanity, though,
like, and that's how he got it done. And that's why I asked you if you'd seen it, because like it's a remarkable psychological journey, that guy. Like he's got a lot happening in that head. Not all of it's great, but like he's
but to be fair, like that is not something you win and then win and then win and then win. Like you're not doing that for the rest of your life, right? So even that's a finite goal.
And he,
he's always going to still work out. He's always still going to be strong.
No, I'm saying he won it 7 times. So like it wasn't.
How many? It wasn't. I get what you're saying, but like that there's probably some money within that too. But he was doing that as a living as well, Oh,
no, absolutely. No, it wasn't a knock on him. I'm just saying, like, it was like one of those things where this guy was like a construction worker that basically said, I'm going to be Mr. Universe. And then he says, I'm going to be Mr. Olympia, and just was like dominating, like, right. And so that was the right time to dive in on those ideas, right? Like he was kind of like, oh, Muscle Beach was just coming up. Like he didn't know. First of all, the documentary is weirdly like Greco-Roman, like, it's a very strange vibe those bodybuilders have. Like,
you know what? You want to hear a story? My coach at the gym was saying that like in the early days of weightlifting, it was something that was considered gay. Right. And they were like, no, you're gay if you're going to bodybuild. That's kind of gay.
Right.
So all these football players, all these wrestlers would never go to the gym because it was like, it was too gay. We're going to go, we'll train.
I don't want to get too gay on me. Yeah.
And literally to the point where like some coaches were like, I don't want to see you in that gym. That means you're gay.
Wow.
Yeah. And then on the other side of it is if you get too big, if you have too much muscle, you become muscle bound. You can't move.
Oh.
So 1, you're going to get too big. 2, you're gay.
Yeah, wow.
And it was like these weird ass stigmas,
it's
like
a win-win
cigarettes
situation,
are good.
isn't it? Yeah,
right. And it was just such a funny thing where it's like, look, I work out because I don't want to die before I have to. You know, it's not.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that does to your body, and God only knows what they were putting in their bodies. Like again, though, like like you don't know what. Like at that time, people weren't like concerned about your health. They're like, "Oh, this will make my bicep an inch bigger. Fucking sweet."
Yeah. Who cares? Testicles? They don't measure by that.
Yeah, we don't need those.
Wear a Speedo. It's fine.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was an interesting topic to bring up. I know it wasn't super exciting, but I think when I was looking at it, more broadly too, and I'm like, now I got your mentor rattling around in my head saying, you can do it all. You just can't do it all at once. And
well, I mean, look, we can limp in with half-assed efforts, right? And yes, perfection is the enemy of progress. but you still got to cross the finish line.
You do
You
have to
know,
do that.
so you know, to have a bunch of things that are started, and this is very much soothing to my ADHD brain, is like, look, I did all this shit, but like, you don't have that one, you know, like, here's another story my mentor gave me, and this is kind of a fun
I love
one,
your
right?
mentor here.
And I feel like I'm honoring him right now by telling these.
Yeah.
So there was this statue maker, and he had 2 apprentices, and you know, he taught them everything they knew, and all they did was make statues of Buddha, right? And he goes, all right, look, you guys have mastered this. Go out and make statues. And I'm going to pick the wrong part in China, and I know I'm a bad fucking acupuncturist for not knowing this. So one of them goes out, and they go, you know, like, we'll come back in 10 years and we'll talk. You know, how many of these statues did you make? This one guy, he goes, look, I made 10,000 statues. You know, all little ones, this one, this one, this one. And this other guy literally carved a cliffside, and I think it's in Fujian. I'm sorry, but and people send hate mail to somebody else. I'm sorry, but like it is like 200 feet high and like 100 feet wide, and he goes, I only carved one. Now we can argue like both of them were prolific,
Sure, right?
But the volume of work is drastically different, right? So it's not necessarily how many things you get done; it's also the size of the things you get done, right? You know, we want quality, but there's also like quantity is going to vary quite a bit.
Yeah,
so
that's
I think
a good
that's
point.
important to remember too. Like, you know, if you write one opus, why are you gonna be writing dirty limericks? You know, I mean,
Yeah,
I'll write 1,000 dirty limericks. I might not write that opus though.
Sure.
You know?
It's funny. I kind of looked at my life a little like that too. Like I you know, looking at things like I'll get like really obsessed with something for like 2 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'll get really proficient at it. And then it'll just kind of start to fade. And then I'm like, all right, time to fill the void with something else. Like, so it's kind of like, I don't really want to do those things for lifetimes. I just want to do them to the point where I'm like,
you want to have the intense experience,
correct,
and then
correct.
You hit the thing. I almost quit the gym this morning. It literally almost broke me. And I looked at, like, you know, everyone's, you know, maybe within 5-10 years of my age that's there. There's a couple of younger guys. I go, like, it's just like one of those fucking video games where you just level up and then you just level up again and you're still doing the same fucking thing. It's like, wait, there's no winning. Like, you don't win. Like, you're not like, oh, you did all the weights.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, great.
You've done all of the weights. There's no more. Yeah.
Like, it's like, you know, if you run out of plates, they start throwing chains and shit on the bar, and no one wants that.
Yeah. That's funny. You know what we got to talk about one time? I want to unpack this with you. Like, I want to talk about, my brain is firmly stuck in that AMP-K mTOR battle. Like, I don't know. I just don't know how to get past it.
I think there's truth in that. I think overall you move more and you're going to be healthier. Now, whether that's cardio or that's, you know, building muscle, I think both have a place. I don't think you're wrong with the research. What I also think that it's not taking into consideration is things like, are you an ectomorph, an endomorph, a mesomorph? Yeah, you know, like, what works for your body, right? Because we talk about this, you know, in acupuncture a lot. Like, what does the person look like they can tolerate, right? Even for dosage, right? Like, oh, this person can handle more needles. This person can't. Why? They're older, they're frailer, they're sturdier, they're younger.
It's a subjective call.
I think I think this is the problem where, like, we want data. We want to know things, right? But even that data, we're not working in a, like, we're not talking about a cloned population.
Right.
You know, so those outliers, they might be an anomaly, but they may not be like this one person that didn't perform like the rest. Maybe they're in a completely different group, and your sample size just only included a couple of those guys.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, isn't that the woe of any study though? Like, you're like,
yeah, and that's my point. Like, so you don't want to hang. I keep talking about this one study, and I'm sure if there's an acupuncturist listening and they saw this, they're going to be pissed off. Because, you know, people are like, you know, we had a new massage therapist start this Saturday, I was in a good mood. I'm like, let me walk to the coffee shop next door and buy the 96-ounce jug of coffee and bring it over and serve it for everybody. And, I still went home with about 60 ounces of coffee. But, it was there. And then somebody said, oh, should I be drinking coffee before the acupuncture? I'm like, well, grab a cup after. I'm like, there is one study that they did on rats where they gave these rats caffeine, and the acupuncture didn't work as well. Specifically, the conversion of adenosine ADP to ATP, right? On the cellular level, they weren't seeing this conversion,
That's
right? So they're saying, oh,
well,
it's not giving the
did
amount.
They figure out what was causing that?
So they're saying something with the caffeine is shorting that out. So, immediately all the acupuncturists jump to,
Don't drink coffee.
if you have coffee or you have any caffeine before an acupuncture treatment, you're going to fuck it up. Now, I had a teacher that literally, he had the old school teacup. So the strainer kind of sits in there and you get full green tea leaves. He'd keep filling that. That'd be 30 cups a day of at the end, it's like a slightly green tinged water.
Yeah.
But, and he's like, oh, because it's got the L-theanine in it and green tea's healthier than the coffee. And it's like, there's only a finite amount of caffeine in those leaves anyway, right? It ferments and the black tea gets stronger. But I don't think he ever even thought is the fucking caffeine messing up me getting acupuncture? And now the other weird thing is one, it's a rat study. So we know rats are different than humans. They're close enough. They're an easy subject to get a lot of, we can do a lot of great things with that. No one's going to get upset if you end up killing a bunch of them. You should. They're kind of cute.
They are.
But anyway, really intelligent too. But anyway, the other thing was they were giving them 75 milligrams of caffeine,
which for their body weight is absurd.
It is like us going let's finish this 55-gallon drum of coffee before we go do stuff. Yeah, that's going to fuck you up on so many levels.
Yeah, it was a lot. That's a lot of caffeine.
And I think it wasn't dosed accordingly. And it's well, look, man, maybe smoking 20 joints won't kill me. But you're going to wish you were dead. I'm going to have a bad time.
Yeah, I am. Not
and when we talk about that, that's everything, right? So is it dosage? And now they're going to be like, Tom, it was only 7.5 grams, and that's quite appropriate. But from what I remember the study, and I watched two acupuncturists that both claim to be scholars and experts go at each other over this. And I'm also and that's also what if you drink caffeine every day and you're used to having some in your system?
Sure. And it's the new baseline. First of all, let me just thank you for telling me that, because nothing is cooler than a nerd fight about something stupid like this. I think
was
it's amazing.
You guys, is this the study I read? Because it was kind of interesting, but I
love it.
I didn't lose sleep over it. It's when they were stevia kills Lyme disease. I'm in a petri dish.
Right.
That's great.
But
that's
blood,
great.
Yeah.
but what are we mainlining that?
Yeah,
because I don't know. And what brand did you use?
Right.
They literally use store-bought brands of stevia in this test.
That's funny.
Great basic information, great basic research.
Well, it's a starting point, right?
But, and that's it. That's the starting point. We want to see those aha moments, but I'm not going to now go look, I'm snorting, stevia off the counter.
Yeah. Cutting a line of stevia.
I'm a little stiff, and I know, I gotta get this.
No.
I gotta get this line back under control.
That's fucking hilarious. All right, man. What are you getting into these days?
Oh man, I'm just trying to survive. I gotta say, kids are back in school, and we're just trying to fall back into a new routine. So we got a day off. Baltimore County gives the kids off tomorrow.
Yeah, and I found that out today. Actually, I knew about it, forgot about it, was reminded today.
I think I might just go to Ellicott City and have a little walk around, grab some lunch, and probably buy the kids some overpriced touristy stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that works, man. I unfortunately will be at a client offsite tomorrow, but it's interesting because we're talking about the future of luxury, and one of the components of that is health. So what does it mean for the luxury sector to be healthy? Because and I'm interested because I'm not part of that strata per se. Like, maybe I'm closer to it than not, but I'm definitely not in that, like that chair is like $150,000. Like, I would love to have one of those in my living room, but I'm not the guy who's got $150,000.
Yeah. So, but that's, we do know somebody that is playing in that arena, that's right.
But cool. Like, it's going to be interesting because like, that is the future of health. You got guys that'll spend $1 million to basically put a longevity center in their house.
I've seen some people go like, they're putting like, what was that? They call that room porn, in their bathroom. It's like, oh, here's the sauna sitting right next to the steam shower, sitting right next to the cold plunge, sitting right next to, and I mean, we've had this discussion, right next to the red light panels. And It's like, that's a home gym that you go to the bathroom for like 4 hours in.
Right. And if you've got 36 hours in a day to do, you can roll through all of them. Right. But like, but it's going to be interesting. So I don't get to enjoy the day off, but I will hopefully
at least you get an interesting topic.
Stimulating conversation. Yeah. So cool, man. Well, until next time.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You bet.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.